Okay, hey everybody. So today we're going to do the okay, yeah, it is recording. We're doing the Change Makers podcast. So it's the sociology clubs podcast from Texas A&M San Antonio. So today we're interviewing John Elizondo. He is a 27-year-old. He's a 27-year-old sociology major from Texas State University. And he's going to be talking about like his experience in like in the workforce and life after college, graduating. It seems like it's so far away, but once it happens, you really don't know what to do with yourself. So he's going to kind of give his experience on that. And so I was, okay, before I start, I also have Daniel here on the call. I just wanted to introduce him as well because I'm Miranda, I don't know why I was going to say the professor. I am not. I am the president for the sociology club. And then Daniel here on the call is the social media coordinator. And unfortunately, the other e-board members couldn't be here today because they are working, because it's a little late right now. But let's get into the questions. So let me change the view. I'm going to put it on speaker view. Okay. So, John, what are some of the biggest challenges you face when transitioning from college to the workforce?
So I think the biggest thing for me that was a big change is that when I was going to college, the thing that I had on my mind was that I'm gotta go to class, gotta get good grades, and then graduate. It was very set in stone where I had extracurricular stuff, but at the end of the day, the main goal was just to graduate. And I feel that for most people, it's something that it's easy or not easy, of course. College is difficult and it has its ups and downs, but um the main thing is that you have that one goal in mind, and as soon as you reach it and you're at the end and you're ready to move on to whether it's a master's or a job or any other goal you have, um that's where it got difficult for me. I had family things going on, I had moving things going on, and at the end of the day, I didn't really know what to do. And I did pass and I did start of course, the job search. But um, for everybody else, I feel that there's just different goals that people have in mind, such as, helping family or moving or anything like that. So that was my biggest thing that I had to deal with when I was first graduating.
So, do you think it would be easier, if you had a set goal before graduation came along, like an actual path you were going to take? Or do you think your approach to life after graduation kind of just, going with the flow and seeing what happens? What do you think? Would you change anything basically, or would you do the same thing?
So me personally, I would change things. So like a example would be that when I went through it, I had like two or three jobs that I was really set in through connections that I made. And unfortunately, when I graduated, those things didn't pan out the way that I wanted them to. And of course, that puts me personally in a situation where I didn't know what to do after that. But um, for the people that do have that goal in mind, whether it's gonna be that you're gonna work with family, you're gonna work with a friend, a business, another, even just going into your master's degree is something that um, is still a goal. And I feel that people that have that that goal in mind, it makes it easier for you when you do graduate. So yes, I would say to have something set, but also that if you don't have something set and that you are confused, that it's not I'm not going to say it's bad, but I'm going to say that it's normal for people to be confused what to do as soon as you graduate, because everything's not really set in stone once you really get out there and start trying to find a job.
Okay, I feel that that's something that I'm worried about because I feel like I'm the opposite. I have a plan set, and I feel like things aren't going to go according to plan. And I feel personally, I feel if there's certain expectations when they're not met at the times that you want. It's kind of disappointing. So thank you for your insight, because that is another, you know, different way to think about life after college, because everybody always says you have to have a plan. So that's cool. Um, Next question. Did you have any internships or part-time jobs during college? What skills did you learn from these experiences?
So my main things was I had 3 work study jobs that I had different throughout the years that I was there. I was there 4.5 years. Um, I had one main full-time internship with San Antonio ISD, and then I had multiple volunteer, whether that was for my classes, because we had classes that did have volunteer requirements, or just on my own time that I wanted to learn and experience things. Um, I learned a lot about my field, whether that was in social work, psychology, or sociology. Um, just in general, that social service environment. I've worked with kids, I worked with adults, I've even worked with animals for like emotional support animals. Um, and it really put me in a perspective to be more like empathetic. It helped me with working with databases, um, documenting client interactions, especially if you're going to be like a social worker or something that you need to document everything for, of course, just for your organization that you're working with. And the main thing too is just multitasking and customer service at the end of the day.
Okay. And do you think that these skills that you've learned in those experiences, are they helping you in your current job today?
If I didn't have those experiences from those interactions that I had in college, I don't think I would be ready for what I'm currently doing today at my current job.
So your experiences really helped you. So you would you recommend having the same experiences for other people who are interested in those fields?
Just coming from the social service aspect, volunteering with any like local organizations, getting your name out there, or even uh interning, especially if it's like a school district or Haven for Hope, just things around here um that are gonna propel you more and get more connections within the social service field. When it comes to other majors, there's different things that you can do, such as workshops or um, projects on your own and stuff like that. So yeah, there's things that any person with any different majors can do to really push themselves out there.
Okay. And then a little bit, kind of going off the the script here. So what was the experience like working with just because I want to know, working with the animals. So like, emotional support animals and stuff like that. What was that like?
So I had 2 classes that would working with, of course, emotional support animals. Um, the main ones that I worked with were, of course, dogs and um, what would be the name for them? Like miniature ponies. I know that
Okay.
sounds really out there, but in San Marcos, there's a lot of different like organizations that help with cats, dogs, strays. There's even a monkey like rehabilitations to re-inhabit stuff like that. Um, I was also part of something called the HEAT team, which was the human environment animal team. So depending on which kind of social service that you're interested in, they had things for that, whether you were working with animals and cleaning up the river with the environment, or working with the human side, which was like volunteering in Austin, food drives. Um, it was just something I really enjoyed when I was doing that. And um, I worked at an animal shelter, and I also worked at or sorry, volunteered at, there was a cat cafe. Um and it would really help a lot of the students that would come from the campus, because it was literally just you come in, you get a drink or you get something, you do your work, and the whole time that you're doing your work you have a cat pretty much that's just ready to be there to love you unconditionally. And it really helped with a lot of the students that I when I was volunteering there.
That's great. I wonder if they have something like that in San Antonio. I'd have to look it up, and if I find anything, I'll probably share it with the members. But that's interesting. I like that. I like how you went from I worked with these people, and even animals. That's funny. Okay, so how did you approach the job search process after graduation?
So honestly, I just went from what people would say to me, especially like my professors. And I'm not gonna say that that's bad or good. Um, but that's the only thing that I had was just from the connections that you made. And of course, whether that was a volunteer and an internship, a lot of people just had the idea that they were gonna get a job straight from their internship, which when you really look at it, it's depending on the major and the places that you intern at, it's not always the case that they're going to pick you up as soon as you're done. It does work out sometimes like that, and it's really great for that opportunity. But for me personally, it wasn't something that happened for me. And my thought process was just get a resume out, go to places like Indeed, and just keep pushing myself out there. But um, in the big scheme of things, that didn't really get me anywhere. What really got me somewhere was when I put my name out and finally started getting connections through actual friends and like peers that I made from college. Um, all the other jobs that I had before, I guess my main like first job within my field was only because I made that connection. All my other jobs were outside of my major.
Okay, is there any resources that you wish you had after graduation, like in that relates to searching for a job or applying for jobs?
So one of the big things, at least for me, because I came from Texas State, um, they actually have an alumni program that actually helps you with pretty much everything. And I didn't really know that existed until maybe about 5 months after I graduated. If you need a professional picture, you need clothes for interviews, you need someone to go over your resume. You still have access to the writing center for, I believe it was like 2 years after you graduate. Um, so if your school has that, or I know that there's also like here the Alamo colleges have their own thing to help with alumni, especially if you did the 2-2 transfer. Um, and then of course, like I think there's the Cafe College downtown. Um, there's just a lot of places outside that I didn't take advantage of when I graduated, but I did eventually take them when I was given that opportunity and the knowledge to do that.
Okay. So yeah, I should look into it too at our school. I think we have something like that as well for like alumni, but I'm not too sure. But I think resources like that are important because, just not feeling lost.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question, what advice would you give to recent college graduates who are struggling to find a job in their field?
So for me, I guess since I'm a social work major, and that's what I graduated with. But when I went into college, I actually changed my major about 3 or 4 times. And for a semester, I was a generalist, which means you're just doing your basics because you haven't declared a major yet. And I feel like that's one of the coolest experiences that I've had because I took my computer science classes, I took my psychology intro class, and I took my intro to social work. And all of them gave me like different experiences and different things to learning that whatever I learned from those classes finally made me choose that I want to be a social service worker. I want to work with people and I want to be more hands-on than um some of the other parts that you can get on. You know what I mean? Like of course like psychology is really personal. Sociology is like a bigger picture. But I want to be in that place where I'm working with families and that's some of those experiences that I did when I was volunteering.
Sorry, I had to turn my camera off. My dogs are barking right now. Give me one sec. Sorry about that.
No, it's
The
okay.
dogs can be too much sometimes. But
Um,
so going, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to that?
oh yeah. So that was just me. That's just what happened with me personally. And the reason I wanted to explain that is that even when I graduated, um, I didn't immediately want to be a social worker, and that's okay. I've had people that have gone in, or I've known people that have gone into the education, or they gone into engineering, or even like coding or something like that, and it's just not the thing that they want to do for the rest of their life, you know? And they ended up learning new skills or starting businesses or doing stuff that still is things that you like to do, but it's not exactly following that career path that you first started with, which that's what I want to let anyone that's listening know is that um although I'm not a social worker and I didn't immediately go for my social work license, I'm still doing things that I enjoy, and I'm still working with the communities and the people that I want to work with. And I feel like people can do the same as well. If you are um like the teacher example, you finally have your internship, you finally start subbing, and you just realize that maybe this isn't for me, you know, try social services, try counseling, try get out of that bubble if you're feeling uncomfortable or that you are interested in different things. That's the best thing that I can give you that are struggling to find a job, especially in that specific field.
Okay, thank you for that. I feel like a lot of people are gonna learn a lot from that because I know personally I've changed my major like twice. It was for education, and then I went into history, and then now I'm sociology. So, it's always good to try out new things because you can either always switch your major back or you find out that if that career goal is for you or not. So, how you mentioned networking a lot during this interview. So, how important is networking when it comes to finding job opportunities?
So, um, I'll start with the example for me. I've been with Catholic Charities for about 3 years now, and every position that I've had has only been because of the people that I've been working with, the families I've been working with, and that's how I've been climbing up the ladder there. But to even get to Catholic Charities where I work now, it was all because somebody was already working there and gave me the recommendation for it. I wouldn't say specifically the reference is what gets you there. Of course, there's still the resume, there's still the interview, there's still the whole process. But I would have never known about this organization without the help of a friend or a peer. Um, and I feel that people need to take advantage of that. Um, because if you can find somebody that's within a certain field or not even like a certain like specific workplace, just having the knowledge of what do you do in your job? How do you interact with these people? What can I do better, or what can I do um to be more valuable to these employers and these other organizations? And it's something that I've learned. Like a first thing I learned when I went in, especially talking to that peer when I first got there, was that I need to learn how to make more documents, presentations, and I need to get better at my public speaking. So um, I took a lot of the stuff that I made in college, and even my internship, I made a resource binder for like social work to help with people with resources. And when I went to my interview, I took that resource binder. I took the stuff that I made to that interview because in the job description, it told me that these are some of the things that I'm going to do. So I wanted to have something physically with me that shows me them that I know how to do these things.
Okay. And how do you go about making these connections, like networking? Because everybody always talks about networking, and it always comes off as intimidating, at least to me. So for you, how do you network?
So for me, when you're within the job, it's actually talking to different departments and talking to the organization as a whole. So without getting into too much detail with Catholic Charities, we have your refugee department, and then you have your homelessness department, you have your children department, it's a very big organization, and it's part of the archdiocese that spreads really far. And the main thing when you're in an organization like that, you want to get your name out there. You want to talk to these different parts or different departments that's just not your own team. But when you're talking about outside of a job, it can be anywhere from volunteering. It can be something if you are part of a hobby, or if one of your passion projects is something that you do on the computer. You're going to meet people that have the same values as you or same goals as you. Like example, this club here right now. One of you might get a connection or a job or something that you can know that it can be beneficial for other people. And once you get there, um, you are going to have thoughts in mind to help the people around you. Example for me is once I got in there, especially once I was there 2 years, I had people ask me, how can I get into this organization? And anytime that they saw a job listing that they were interested in, I gave them the email to that specific person. And I also told them, like, this is some of the things that you are going to have to work with, like stuff that is a little bit outside of what just a job description. You're going to be working with international clients. You're going to be working with different languages. You're going to be working with things that I didn't even know what to do when I got there. So make friends and stay connected with them. Make a LinkedIn, connect on Facebook. Social media is really important now, especially in these times. And you just really need to just get out there once you get your first job. And even if it's somewhere that's not within your major, I guarantee you that those people will help you in the future. So you want to make those connections.
And even at like your current jobs as well, I would assume that you're still making those connections for if you ever did decide, to branch off into something different, or like you mentioned, different departments. You wanted to try something new. You have those connections, and I think that's important because, like nowadays a lot of people like to they like to picture a certain outcome, but they really don't put the work into it. And I think that's part of the work aspect to meet new people, make those connections, and also just put your name out there. So that way when you are ready, you can just jump into that field, because you have someone there who's helping you or giving you advice, just like John said, how he helped his friends get advice before they applied for the job to make it a little more easier during the interview. So let's talk a little bit more about your experience at Catholic Charities. So what is that like working there at your current job?
So at my current job, some things that are a little bit like outside of my comfort zone is I've been there 3 years, and the biggest thing for me is the communication. There's always some type of barrier. Because every client that I talk to, unless they have some English experience, they don't speak English. And that's okay. And the department that I'm part of is the education department. We have many families from all different types of experience or like English levels, and we teach them English. One of our main languages that we deal with is Pashto and Dadi. And I will admit, I've never heard of these languages until I started working with Catholic Charities. So going into a field where, or, going into an organization where 99% of your clients you can't communicate with normally, and you're always going to have an interpreter with you, or you're going to need a translator, or you're going to need some type of tool or resource to even just talk to your client. It's something that I had to learn, and it was a really big step for me. And I feel that no matter where I go after Catholic Charities, I'm always going to have that skill and that experience to be able to handle something like that.
And you mentioned like the different languages that you never heard of them before, working there. So what is that like culturally? What is the cultural differences that you've noticed, working with refugees?
So, some of the main ones that are main like cultures that we've been working with, we have, of course, like our Afghans. We have Ukrainians as well. After the things that are currently going on in the world, um, we have a lot of Cubans that are coming from Mexico and from Puerto Rico. Um, we just have a lot of different people from all over the world, and when you put them into a classroom together, you see some very interesting things that, and the thing is, I'm not an educator. I didn't go for education, but I taught English for a little bit. And to see people go from a pre-lit level to barely knowing their ABCs, and some of our clients have never been to school in their life, you know, it's just a cultural thing that's the experiences that they had going a year and a half later, and now they're reading books and they're talking with their peers and they're taking the public bus to school. It's a really cool experience, and it's I'm really glad that I'm part of that. And it's really like, it's just really uplifting to see clients, and especially some of them, like some of our clients that have come in that are a little bit higher on the English level. They'll start at an intermediate level, and then they go to college. We've had two people that are already on their junior year in college, and they started in an English class, a small little English class at a church, and now they're already about to graduate with a degree in America. It's it's a really good experience.
And how do you go about being culturally sensitive and empathetic towards these people? Was that a skill that you had to learn, or was that already learned through like your college life?
So um, I feel that my job at Catholic Charities was completely like on left field, I guess, when it comes to that, like being culturally sensitive. So, like example, when I was in college, I worked with a lot of young youth, like from middle school to high school. That was like my main experiences. Of course, I did say I work with adults and elders, but my main thing was like young adults, And so going into a field where you're only working with the adults, from a mom and dad that are like 22 all the way to a family of 8 from the ages of 6 years old all the way to like 62. It's like a really big thing for me, working with all these different types of age ranges. And when it comes to the cultural part, um like especially like my own experience would be just like um having to, let's see. So one of the main ways I learned is that at Catholic Charities, when a family comes over from another country and they get settled in here, it is technically possible to volunteer or even work for Catholic Charities. So some of our employees are refugees. And once you get to talk to them and learn about their culture and learn about their values and beliefs, um, it's easier to work with the clients. Example right now is it's our Afghans are celebrating Ramadan. And with Ramadan, I heard the term before, but I never really knew what it meant. And now that we are teaching them, we're not putting certain foods out, we're not um mentioning certain things, like it's just something that you learn. And I know this is specifically to Catholic Charities, but that's something that you're going to have to learn even if you're just working with the schools, like the school districts. um Depending what side of San Antonio you're on, or if you're, going back somewhere within Texas, like it's going to be different in every area that you go to. And you just need to figure out how to be culturally sensitive to that area.
These new experiences with people from different cultures, has it made an impact on you as an individual? Kind of, so to explain myself a little bit, you mentioned like Ramadan and you're learning new things. Has that made an impact on you and your way of going about talking to these people?
Um, I would say that it's really strengthened my, like, I guess my adaptiveness from working with an Afghan family to working with the Cuban family to working with a Congo family. Like all of them have their own like specific, I would say, like, I don't want to use the word triggers or anything like that, but there's just different things that I know that are that could be seen as culturally insensitive, and it is something that I have learned and experienced my time there. Um and the more cultures that you add, the harder and more difficult it gets to be as professional and as straight as you can with stuff like that. But for me personally, um every single time that I interact with the client now, I'm confident, I am straightforward, I know what my goal is, and I know what I have to do. And it's, if you asked me that about 2 years ago, I would tell you that I'm absolutely scared of interacting with a new culture, a new ethnicity, anything in between those, and I've just been a lot more confident now.
And you mentioned earlier that you've been working at Catholic Charities for around 3 years. So have you always worked in your current position?
So when I first started with Catholic Charities, I worked during COVID. Working there during COVID, especially um, when most of our stuff is like in person, it was kind of weird jumping into everybody being separated and stuff like that. But when I first started, I was working with Catholic Charities and the city of San Antonio. It was a contracted position that my main job was giving people access to COVID relief funds for their electricity bill and their water bill. So electricity and their rent, like mortgage, or apartment rent. Um, you would have to follow a specific guide of rules and regulations and show how COVID has affected you financially. And I would personally get all that information and submit that as a document to the city of San Antonio to see if you can get approved for COVID relief. But while I was there, although that was something that I was doing, very helpful and very like different from what I have been doing, the main location was at their homeless, like the Guadalupe Community Center, where they usually work with the students and they work with the homelessness population. And from there, I got experiences with a whole other range of people and other experiences with that. And that wasn't even my main job. My main job was just to help with COVID relief. But I met two or three people, and as soon as I applied for the refugee department, that's where I eventually moved to. I went from being a contract position helping with COVID relief to a life supplemental program that helped refugees with life skills. I know that sounds weird, but um, you realize how much life skills that you've learned um, here in America when it such as opening a bank, learning how to write the bus system, hygiene, education, how to get in contact with your child's school. That's kind of some of the stuff that we did when I was working as a life, like a supplemental life, um, supplemental life skills coordinator. Okay, yeah.
Okay, is that your current position at the moment?
So after that, teaching those life skills, that program ended up changing to something else. And as that was moving into a different department, I was offered another position with the education department. So I went from teaching digital literacy and all those other different types of life skills to teaching English. And I taught English for about 6 or 7 months, and then I transitioned from teaching English to just doing registrations. Because like I said earlier, education wasn't exactly what I studied for when I was going to college, but having that experiences with all the other things that I've done, I've really enjoyed where I'm at now because I get to do the technical stuff. I get to make new documents, I get to make new presentations and work with the company databases. And I even have done like UTSA classes that are covered through my job because every skill that I learn outside is still going to help my coworkers and of course the clients that we're working with.
Okay, so you've kind of grown with the company, it sounds like. That's cool. So it sounds like there's always room to switch up what you're doing, and I feel like that's good, especially for those who don't really know what aspect of social, like the social field, because you can always do any kind of social services, but I feel like Catholic Charities, as far as what I've talked about with you and what you've told me today, kind of, it seems like it's a good entry level social services, and you can always work your way up. So
I would agree with that.
is there anything else that you want to add about working at your current job? Any experiences or anything before I move on?
Um, I guess the last thing I would say is just that the main thing that I can take away from my job, if I was to use the experiences for trying to search for another position or just job in general, you really just want to highlight, no matter where you're working, the skills that you've learned from it. And I know I kind of went into them a little earlier from my college experience, but um, of course, the classes that I've taken from while I've been working there, or the international experience as well. But you just want to take that while you're there. If you have to physically write that down, some of the things, or even the job description that you're working,
Mhm.
you just want to make sure that you have all that saved, or at least in your mind when you're looking for a different position elsewhere or even higher in the company that you're working at.
Okay, thank you for that. So that concludes all the questions that I have for you. So I don't know. I know there's not many people on the call right now because, I think we had to do this at a later time to work with your schedule and my schedule. But um, I don't know if Daniel, do you have any questions for John before I move on? Just about anything that we've talked about today or experience outside of um
Ye
graduation?
yes, I actually do. So hello, John. So I like how you mentioned that you actually changed your major 3 times. That's something that I can relate to because I was actually under as a bio major, but I decided to change my major to sociology, because I took a sociology class and I actually like fell in love with it. I was like, well, I really like it. And I've always known ever since I started college that I actually want to study with like I mean to work with students. That's something that I've always known. Like I want to work with students or like people like you. So I guess my question is, was there like how did you know that social work was something that you wanted to do? Like was there a moment where you realized and you were like, "Oh, this is what I want to do for like the rest of my life?"
So, um, where I felt that click that you're like speaking about is I ended up with computer science, and then I went to generalists, and that's when I went to they had like a thing on campus where you get to try out and talk to different people of different majors. Like it's actually a thing that they do every year or every semester at Texas State. And I actually talked to the psychology department. So I took the next semester, I took an intro to psychology, and it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I kind of thought that's what I was gonna do. And I ended up talking to my professor after one of my classes. And I had maybe like a 30-40 minute conversation with him. And he said that I should try going into the social work field. It sounds like something that you're going to be more in tune with. And it sounds like because I always told him that when I was like in high school and stuff, I had a lot of counseling services, and I had a lot of help from a lot of different people to help me continue school, even just go to college, And I always said that that's something that I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. So as soon as I went to the intro, the very first day, they're like, okay, here's the intro. Your next class, we're gonna go start learning about volunteer opportunities around San Marcos. And I was like, okay, this is a little a little scary, a little different. And I ended up volunteering at a children's shelter in San Marcos. And as soon as I got there, first day interacting with these at-risk kids, I just knew like I found where I want to be. I found that I'm, like it was not stressful. I mean, not stressful, but it was more like, anyway, it was stressful and there was a lot that went into it. I was very happy at the end of the day where I was at. So that's when I personally found where I wanted to be.
That's really interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, like I'm a sociology major. I think that's obvious. But so yeah, there's moments where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do like after graduation or like with my degree. And I've actually considered, doing social work myself. So thank you for sharing that. I think that helps me understand a little better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Okay, and I'm assuming there's no any other further questions, so I'm going to kind of like wrap things up. But before I give a conclusion, John, would you like to give any last advice to students, just about work life and after graduation?
Yeah, so I guess the best way to summarize this whole meeting would be that it's okay to not know what you're doing after college, and it's also 100% okay to not to know what you're doing while you're in college. Um, I feel like the whole point of college is to grow and learn, and try different things, find the things that interest you, join different clubs, join different friend groups, just get yourself out there. And it's okay to not know what's going to happen next, but the main thing is that you're working towards what you want, um and everything will be okay. I didn't go into what I wanted to, and I'm still happy now, and I feel that in the next year I'm going to be even happier whatever I'm going to be doing next. So
I think that's very inspirational to end things on. Thank you for that, John. So what we learned today is that not only what John just mentioned, but that networking is also important, and that, just continuing to go, even if you don't feel like you're in the right place, like continuing to apply different places, continuing to try, different parts of a organization like John did. Just keep trying, keep going until you find something that at the end of the day you're happy with, that you're satisfied with, and that you're making a living off of, because at the end of the day that's the only thing that matters is that you're happy and you're able to take care of yourself financially. So if you guys already don't, follow us on social media. So our Instagram is Tamusa_sociology club. Tamusa is TAMUSA. So Tamusa_sociology club. That's where we post everything, all like the flyers and stuff for our upcoming events. And that's Daniel's usually the one on there. So all the good things that you see posted are from him. But yeah, other than that, everybody can go ahead and leave the call. And thank you so much, John. And thank you, Daniel, for participating today.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.